get started. Thank you everyone for joining us here tonight. We have a very special presentation. One of my dear friends who I have watched / tortured / all through her horsemanship journey, but at the same time she was taking all these other journeys, and somehow she's melded those together into something pretty cool. So this is Jessy Johanneck, by the way, and I am Fairgreen. If you do not know me, I am president of the IHA, and we are so happy to have Jessy on the meeting tonight. So Jessy is an artist, a homeschool mother, a yoga instructor, and a certified master practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming, a certified master practitioner of humanistic neuro-linguistic psychology, and an advanced student of horsemanship and a certified transformational life coach. She has her children and her horses in large part to thank for her colorful and adventurous journey in life, beautifully enriched and supported by her personal journey with NLP or neuro-linguistic programming, coaching, and her experience and education in studying and becoming an NLP coach herself. Jessy adores humanity, our connection to each other, and helping to shine all the light on all of the resources and skills clients and students have at their fingertips, and honors every different journey as being capable of providing a path to where each person wants to go. So, Jessy, I was very intrigued by the title of your presentation tonight. Can you just re-say your title for everyone and why you chose that title?
Yes. So the title is Harmony-Rich Horseplay with NLP. And I chose that because so much of what I do in life, specifically coaching and with the horses and with my kids and with all other beings, is trying to infuse more harmony, even within myself. Like, you know, we can be very inharmonious or incongruent within ourselves. So the idea is to infuse more harmony everywhere I go. Anybody who asks, and any horses who are willing, more harmony is the idea. And I use the word horseplay instead of horsemanship because I don't consider myself a horsemanship expert or professional. I would say I'm more of a partnership coach, and harmony within yourself and harmony within communications and relationships. So that was kind of the inspiration behind it.
Well, I actually love it. I think it's brilliant into to really bring people together, bring horses together, and what we can learn from each other. I like to say I like to teach because it makes me a better person and it makes me a better horseman. So I completely understand where you're coming from with that. And so I've known Jessy for about 2.5 years now, and I started helping her with her horsemanship at the same time that she was doing her yoga certification classes. And she was going through this transformation with her horses that was kind of prompted by our discussions as well as everything else she was learning. And I thought I would love, because I think you've come full circle with this journey. It's been really hard and you've been really honest about it. But I think it would be really helpful, really helpful to share your story. Here,
can you hear that? I'm just making sure I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
If you have not, I think I got it. There we go.
I think it's coming from Jose's iPad.
Yep, I think I got her muted now. And just
Okay.
so everyone, if you could just keep your microphone muted unless you're have a question. So thanks so much. I think it's okay now.
Okay, it's much better.
Yeah. So go ahead, Jessy, lead us through this journey.
Thank you, Farah. That's such a generous, kind introduction. And thank you to everybody who's here and to Farah for inviting me. I'm super grateful to be here and really excited. I had a friend ask me today if I was all ready for tonight. And I was like, yeah, I mean, yeah, I've been waiting for years for people to ask me to talk to them about horses and what I think about horses and how to combine NLP. So I have some slides I'm going to share with you guys here. Oh, this one. And we can get started. These are only for the fun of having something to look at. I promise I'll read everything on the slides. So if for some reason it's hard for you to see or concentrate on reading and listening to me at the same time, no worries. They're purely for those of us who also really enjoy looking at something also. I'll bounce back and forth between the slides and just being on the screen talking. So,
well, and honestly, Jessy, it's really cool to look at your artwork too. So.
Thank you. Thank you. It is such an easy excuse for me to infuse my artwork into this too. So like a win-win for me, talking about horses and NLP and getting to show people my paintings. So thank you. Yeah. So the first thing I wanted to start out with is I'm going to introduce myself just very briefly momentarily here, but I would love to read in the chat a little bit about you guys too. The horses that you have, the journeys that you're on, the things that you enjoy, and the things that you feel are your greatest opportunities for growth. So as I am introducing myself, whoever feels so inclined, if you want to share any of these questions in the chat, your name, your horse's name, because who of us doesn't like to talk about our horses? And what is your most enjoyable and successful thing to do together with your horse? And what is your greatest opportunity for growth in your partnership with your horse? So feel free to type any of that in.
That's a really tough one, Jessy.
Is it?
What is our greatest opportunity for growth in partnership with your horse? Wow, that's a tough one.
And I'm gonna clarify the statement of opportunity for growth a little bit too as we go through this. And I'm actually going to introduce to you guys another way to ask this question to a different part of your mind than the very linear conscious mind that we think of when we think of the mind in our culture, where you can ask this question and let the answer just kind of float up to you. So if it feels like a hard question right now, then don't worry about it at all. And just answer what feels easy or nice, or just listen too. There's no firm requirements here. So I am Jessy Johanneck, and like Farah said, I'm a yoga instructor. I am a homeschooling mom of 2 young kids. I am a certified master practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming and many, many other things, and so grateful to be here.
Looks like you got some pretty cool answers in the chat there, Jessy.
Are there? How do I?
If you, I can read them to you if you want to.
It might be easier if I read them. These are great.
Yeah, go ahead and read them loud if you want.
Okay, so I'm not going to read all of them, but maybe I'll go through a couple of these. And the other great part about this is you guys can get to know each other a little bit too in these introductions, and which is something that Farah fosters so well, is community. That's something that is so powerful in clinic learning, is the power of the group. So feel free to interact with each other on the chat too and respond to some of this. So Andrew says, from Minnesota here, I do body work on horses and love them all. For growth, I want to get better at listening to the horse I work and ride. Yes, that is me too. I want that also. I have a new thoroughbred mare that is my primary polo horse this season. Congratulations. I didn't know that, Andrew. Wonderful. Susan, let's see. I don't, are those maybe our horse names?
Yep,
Elgar, Echo.
Echo is her horse. Yep.
Greatest opportunity is to clarify the line between assertive and aggressive as viewed from the horse's point of view. So brilliant. Yeah. Mary says, Mary has Decker. Most enjoyable thing is probably trail riding. Excuse me. And the greatest growth opportunity is to be a better learner so he can stay relaxed and understand me and then learn as well. You guys are coming up with all these things that I feel like are really common for all of us. Any of us trying to prioritize partnership and especially harmony in that partnership, these are all really similar things. I'm going to come back and read more of these in a minute here. I want to just keep going on these slides, and you guys keep reading and keep sharing. That's fabulous. So I wanted to give you just a very brief outline of what I'm going to cover tonight. I'm going to talk about what is NLP, this weird abbreviation. I will explain to you what neuro-linguistic programming is. And I am going to teach you about some tools and skills from NLP that will help empower you guys to be more aware and more able to utilize some of your internal resources. So we here are very lucky in the IHA, and especially led by Farah, such a great instructor. So we have good external resources. A huge part of what NLP does is highlights how many resources, tools, and skills people have internally, how many things we have access to. Because if you think about it, even our bad habits take tools and skills to sustain, right? They take persistence and commitment, and even our bad habits require tools and skills. We have so many things available, and NLP helps us to plug in those resources, tools, and skills in more contexts in life. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. It's interesting what you said about even your bad habits take effort to maintain.
Take tools and skills. Yeah. Even our bad habits, like we have spectacular tools, skills, and resources that are maintaining our bad habits. So we don't want to get rid of all of the tools and skills and resources. We just want to change the external behavior that we're producing, but keep all of the good stuff. I'm going to talk about one of my favorite things, how I have integrated some of these NLP tools and skills into my horsemanship with my horse. And I love when you guys are interactive. Questions, comments, the more the merrier in the chat is wonderful. And I'll hop in and out of this screen and being able to read those. And you guys read them and respond to each other too. And Farah will be able to do that as well.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to tell you my story momentarily here, but I want to give you just a very general overarching understanding of what neuro-linguistic programming is. So what that stands for, neuro stands for the mind, linguistic is language, and programming, not that we are like machines or computers to be programmed, but it refers more to patterns in variables in a system that produce a pattern. So for us, it would be patterns of behavior or patterns of action. So the way that NLP views this is we as humans have this extraordinary skill of language. And it is so powerful that we literally use our language to perceive, define, understand, literally build our reality with our language. The language that we use to tell ourselves what is happening constructs our reality. And what NLP has done is figured out that the language we use to construct our reality is stored in the mind according to that language. So you can view through kind of a map of the language that you use, how you perceive, understand, define the world, the interactions that you're having in it. And then in that map of language that we use, we can see the patterns that we produce. So the way that we store our reality, our interactions, our values, beliefs, emotions, experiences, they're stored in our mind through our language. And that's where the root of our patterns, behaviors, habits, actions, choices, words are stored. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Are you going to give examples of that?
Yes, I will give examples of that from my own as we go along. Okay. So one other simple way NLP is defined is neurolinguistic programming studies how mind and language interact to create a completely unique reality and map of the world for each individual person. So this is one of the cool things about NLP is we understand that each person uses different language to perceive, define, and understand the world around them and interactions around them. It's how two people can be at the exact same situation, event, or context and understand it and perceive it completely differently because we use, all of us, completely unique language to understand the world around us.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Okay, so one of the things I want to talk to you guys about to introduce some of the tools that I'm going to teach you about from NLP is a very complex thing called a problem. So, believe it or not, once we become consciously aware of a problem, and in this context together tonight, you guys, we are going to assume that we're talking about a problem, and I'm going to change that word very shortly here. We're going to reframe that a little bit. But in this context, with the digital space between us and being with the IHA, we're going to assume that we're talking about problems in the relationship with our horse is kind of the context that I'm talking about. So believe it or not, a problem can give us a lot of information and a lot of opportunity. I'm going to talk about that, but I want to jump out of here so that you can see a little bit bigger.
Jessy, can I blurt something?
I would love for you to blurt something.
Because I was just thinking about what you said about, you know, the language that we use and the words that we choose to explain what's going on. So I would find as a clinician, you know, I would go around and ask everyone, so happy that you're here. Why did you choose to sign up? And they would start to explain how their horse has an issue.
Yeah.
And I would think about the word issue and like that's kind of like sounds permanent to me. So I started to reframe that in, okay, your horse is asking you a question and you don't seem to have a sufficient answer. So they continue to ask you this question until you can find an answer for them. Is this kind of what you're talking about with the NLP?
Yep. And I'll explain it a little bit further, but you're exactly on the right lines about how the communication can be clarified. And this is something that happens between humans too, right? Human to human, even though we both have these very skilled language abilities, communicating human to human can get kind of clear as mud too. So communicating with the horse, there are ways to clarify that.
I'm just supposed to, what? What's it say? What's it say? What's it say? But having a great time in the snow with my mom and little bro.
It's okay.
Got it?
What is somebody? Yeah. It's just as people log in, they're not muted. So.
Oh, funny. Okay. So I want to share a little bit with you guys about just an example of a problem. So we're not going to talk about your problems. We'll talk about my problem that I had with Fandango that kind of spurred this change in my horsemanship and how I view my interactions with my horses. So Fandango is a 14-year-old saddlebred. I got him 10 years ago now, and he was my first kind of amateur owner horse. My first horse that I was going to learn to be his teacher. I was going to teach him the things, even though I didn't know any of the things. Like, I was the epitome of the horse person that people talk about when they say green on green makes black and blue. He was 4, coming out of the saddle seat show world, and very, 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 very athletic. So athletic, so young, and energetic to a degree that is
That's right.
unimaginable. So there I was. This is when I was 29 with a 4-year-old, super adrenaline fueled saddlebred. And I'm going to teach him all the things. And I know nothing. So the first day I get him home, it actually took me 6 hours to put the halter on him. 6 hours just to put the halter on him and feed him. And
what was he doing? Was he just running away from you?
Oh yeah. He had so much energy. I mean, he could have run for weeks without having to stop and ask me why I was out there. And this was the first time he had ever been put out with a herd out on the grass. And he was like, I don't need you. I'll never forget, my dad turned and looked at me the day we let him out on the pasture, and he said, he's heard the call of the wild. He doesn't need humans anymore. And that's like what he thought. He was just, he had friends, he had the grass, he had space to roam, he had hay. And he really was not interested in my input in the relationship or conversation.
Because he'd probably been kept in a barn up until that point too.
I don't think that he had ever been out on pasture. He probably had maybe turnout with another horse in a paddock, but I don't know that he had ever lived out on a pasture and had quite
want to go back.
Quite that freedom. Yeah. Yep. Nothing I did could bring him back in. And so that's how I decided to start my journey into being a horse, my own horse trainer, like not for other people, but teach my own horse all the things. The next day, I think I cut that 6 hours down by an hour, and so it went. It wasn't like we just had a couple of days that were long and then it got better and, I could halter him right away. It took months, probably years before I could consistently walk out with a halter and think that I had even a 50-50 chance of getting him. So that's kind of the foundation of the beginning of the relationship that we had. And I was studying, several different natural horsemanship or partnership-based programs. And in my understanding of my horsemanship journey, I thought if I could learn to do the things eventually lightly and off of a feel, and that my cues were small, that was equivalent to building the partnership, and that was equivalent to building the relationship. And we got to a point where we could do amazing things. At the end of a 45-foot line, I could ask him to side pass over a barrel away from me, side pass back over it towards me. I could, at the end of a 45-foot line, direct him, turning backwards through poles. We could do very, very, very cool things. But he still would look at me differently when I walked out to the pasture with a halter. And I remember after the first few clinics I did with you, Farah, I started thinking, I'm going to improve my horsemanship. I'm going to up the ante here, and I'm really going to start like holding myself accountable to make sure the partnership is as important as the skills and the tasks that we're doing.
Admirable.
And I kid you guys not, the next day, Fandango watched me walk up to him with the halter. And this was tricky for him because normally he doesn't do it this way. I could fit the halter around his neck. You guys know what I'm talking about. And I went to go put it over his nose, and he like jumped off of the ground out of the halter and galloped to the other side of the pasture.
No.
It was not like a small, not right now. Like, it was not a slow speed chase. You know, sometimes horses give you a slow speed chase, and that's not what this was. This was a high speed chase, and he was not letting me anywhere near him. They live out on about a 10-acre pasture, and he is, compared to me, like an athletic god of horse movement. There was no catching him. And this persisted, you guys, for 3 months. I could not put the halter on him.
She's probably just a mom with sunglasses.
For 3 months. So when I talk about becoming consciously aware of a problem, this was the problem that sparked my change in desire to infuse harmony in everything I was doing with my horses. Because like you were saying earlier, Farah, he had been telling me quietly for a really long time. You know, sometimes I would walk up to him and he'd kind of slow speed walk away. And after 2 or 3 ties, I could put the halter on. But I hadn't really, you know, consciously looked at this problem he was still exhibiting, because I wanted to focus on advancing the skills and the tasks and, you know, doing the fancy things. And as soon as I could get the halter on him, he would do all the things. So I didn't really give it the focus or attention that clearly he was asking for. So just like you said, I didn't listen to the small communications. I waited until he had such a huge thing to say to me that I had no choice but to look at the problem and now figure out, what am I going to do with this? You know, I'm the human. I'm the one with the ability to be flexible and decide how I'm going to approach this. So that is an example. Not all problems need to be that exciting, obviously.
But it's, you know, I think what you're saying, Jessy, hits home for a lot of people, that it's not wrong. It's not wrong to want to do fun things with your horse and have goals. But, you know, what is their look in their eye giving you? And behavior is just a form of communication. And they only get bigger until we realize, you know, what they're actually trying to say. So I think it's, I felt for you so much, you know, listening, going through all of this, but I wish I could help you more, but I feel like you needed to figure it out between him and you. You know how to do the things. You needed to really understand each other. And that's what I feel like you did. There's a couple of comments. Lisa said she had the same experience with a thoroughbred gelding. Took us a week to catch him. He had never been kept out of the stall and loved his freedom. Elizabeth says she has a thoroughbred Hanoverian. He was always outside and he loves to run, but also loves cuddles. So that's good.
Oh, nice. Well, that's helpful when they like to cuddle. That is really helpful. Yeah. So
what did you end up doing about this problem?
So this was a huge, like, kind of line in the sand for me, because I had thought what I was doing, this had been after 8 years of partnership, mind you guys, 8 years of doing the programs and the skills, the tasks, all the things.
Oh, Jessy, I think I muted you. Sorry.
Better?
Yeah. Go for it.
Thanks for telling me, or I would have just kept talking.
I muted everyone except for me. Sorry.
Okay. So this is after 8 years, you guys. Like, my heart was broken. You know, I thought I had been building the partnership, and then now here Fandango was like, it wasn't the partnership that you were building. So I'm going to go back here to talk about some of the components of a problem that are very helpful, that are actually opportunities. So here's the thing that happens when we become consciously aware of a problem. And again, tonight we're talking about our problems or challenges or situations within our partnership with our horses. But you guys can see that this could apply to other things, big and small, in life as well. So once you're consciously aware of a problem, you have at that moment empowered yourself to act on it. Empowered yourself to make a decision about who and how you want to be in response to that problem. And the cool thing about this, and one of the really fabulous things about NLP, is if you think about how we talk to ourselves about the things that are going on in our lives, that literally defines how that reality is happening to us. So here I was in the middle of this. I refer to it to everybody as my existential crisis of horsemanship. And, you know, I had been telling myself, the problem is he doesn't like doing stuff with me. I haven't been a good enough partner. He doesn't want to be tied to me by the halter. You know, you can tell yourself all kinds of negative things when you become consciously aware of a problem, when you decide you want to do something about a problem. And what NLP is so good at is reframing so many things and looking at the opportunity in it. So one way of reframing when you come upon a problem or a challenge or an opportunity of any kind with your horse, to think about it as not a club to hit ourselves over the head with, like, super, I found another problem. Great. You know, we can really be hard on ourselves. But if you think of becoming aware of a problem as the first step in being able to create change or healing or transformation, you can't do anything about a problem if you're not aware of it. It is like this magical moment of realization where now that you consciously have become aware of this problem, you're now empowered to decide what you want to do about it. And if you think about talking to yourself in a way where when you become aware of a problem, you can explain to yourself, now I have come upon another opportunity. You know, I can't control everything that's going on around me. I can't control my horse. You know, our horses will have their patterns and responses, and we can help and support them to improve their quality of life and their responses, their behaviors, their safety, of course. We cannot, you know, absolutely control them. The only thing we completely have control over is ourselves. How do I want to respond to this? How do I want to perceive this? Who do I want to be in response to this? How do I want to be in response to this? So, like, if you're looking at the list on the screen here under the gifts of a problem number 1, that was the first point of decision for me when I came across this problem with Fandango of, okay, so now Fandango has presented me with this opportunity of saying, I don't like being attached to you in the halter. So now who do I want to be in response to that? And in me, it triggered a huge kind of redefining of my philosophy around horsemanship. And the cool thing about this is the answers to these things will be different for everybody. We're all different people. There is no single right or wrong answer. the cool part about NLP is exploring your internal wisdom and knowing and values and beliefs about how to approach this. So after number one here, after I became aware of what was going on and decided to explain to myself, this is an opportunity. Then the next thing I did, there's something in NLP refer to as mirrors. My instructor says it this way: mirrors, mirrors everywhere. So if we look at the world around us, and these can be in interactions with people or with horses or animals, if we allow ourselves to view it this way, we can look at any given situation that we're having a hard time with, that we view as a problem, and allow that situation to mirror back to us. What in me is this reflecting? So for example, in this case with Fandango, I mean, this was reflecting a lot, right? Like whether I wanted to hear what he had to say or not, it was reflecting that he wasn't crazy about the partnership things we would be doing together when he had a halter on. And so what does that reflect to me? That I probably need to be a better listener to the small things first. It reflected to me, I probably needed to prioritize patience, compassion, and listening was a huge thing for me, being able to listen to him. So that's what it mirrored back to me. Is this stuff making sense so far, you guys? How these can be tools and skills for us to use when we encounter something that seems like an adversity or a challenge or a problem, if we can frame what's going on as a way to look within, how that can be a tool and skill to use. Is that making sense to everybody so far?
Looks like everyone is loving it. We got a lot of
Okay.
yeses, sounds great.
Okay.
And a comment, seriously, everyone should try NLP for themselves. Huge transformation after just a few sessions. So looks like, yep. So you were hitting home with this, Jessy.
Okay, good. So then another tool or skill that you have the ability to use after you have encountered what seems like a problem or an obstacle is reframing. So after you've become aware of a problem, we'll do it in order here. So number one, you've become aware of a problem. You've empowered yourself that you're going to decide who and how you want to be in response to this problem. You're patting yourself on the back because you found an opportunity to heal, transform, or change, release something. Okay, these are all the positive things that happen when we come across something that we want to change. You cannot change anything if you're not aware of it. And it is true in partnership and communication, and it is true in our own transformation as well. So that's number one, becoming aware. Number two is using what you are encountering as a mirror. What does this situation mirror to me that I can look at in myself? Because as much as we would sometimes like to, we cannot control all of the variables or bodies or people or voices around us. So what does this mirror to me that I can do inside of myself to respond as who and how I want to be? Then number three is, after you've done those two things, what you can do is have the ability now to reframe what you're looking at as a problem or obstacle. You can reframe then specifically, how is this an opportunity for me? So for example, with Fandango, who's now running, I mean, you guys use your imagination. You cannot imagine a horse running fast enough to be running faster than what Fandango is doing away from me. It's hard to fathom. And not only would he run away from me, he would take the whole herd. Like, we're out of here. Like, nobody's having anything to do with her. And okay, so how am I gonna reframe this? Here I am, and let me tell you, I didn't respond immediately with all of these things. I took my time to grieve the partnership I thought we had. There were phone calls I had to my friends where I was laid out flat on the pasture grass, like watering the pasture with my tears. This was a big thing for me to look at and decide what to do with. So what is my opportunity here? Well, I want to be the kind of horse person that prioritizes the harmony. I want to be the kind of horse person that is able to listen to my horse when they say the small thing and respect that and honor that. And I want to be able to listen to the small things and be honoring and respecting of my horse, and also advancing in skills and abilities and doing fun things together. And so my opportunity to do this was pretty simple, actually, because I couldn't put a halter on him. So I had this basically immeasurable opportunity to do these things at Liberty, right? Yay! Lots of opportunity to work at Liberty, out in the giant pasture where he has nothing but choice to do what he wants. And there was nothing for me to do but listen to him, right? Because he could go anywhere and take whoever he wanted with him at any point in time. So I reframed this into a lifetime opportunity to work with a horse that was so committed to demanding my excellence that he would run away from me for 3 months. Not every horse would offer me that opportunity, right? Many horses would not be that committed to the cause. So I took it as a golden lifetime opportunity to let this master teacher in partnership and expectations for excellence from me show me what would work and what wouldn't work, and learn an entirely new way of thinking about my expectations for our time together. And it changed.
That was after all the crying, right? Because
that was after the crying. There was crying mixed in at times, which, you know what, that is a healthy thing to do, to express ourselves.
I mean,
So,
it's beautiful what you're talking about, and the conclusion that you came to is fabulous, but that's not an easy conclusion to come to. At least you can know that consciously, but then, to go through this like subconscious battle of my horse hates me and I'm doing
yeah,
everything wrong, and so, and really do take it as an opportunity for conversation. So I think it's valuable what you're saying. Kelly says, I'm still amazed at your commitment to the opportunity he presented. Elizabeth said, so far what is being said is giving me hope. Debbie has been discovering this with her students. When I play with horses while I as a student is engaging with us online, I love learning that I'm right on. I think I need to learn more. So
yes, super. Listening to all these brilliant people. Yeah, it's not an easy thing to look at what Fandango was offering me. Clearly, I took 8 years, and him saying, fine, lady, if this is what it takes, I'll draw a line in the sand. And then, it was kind of like, but what was I going to do? It was such a huge opportunity that I really couldn't help but look at it. Like, we missed trimming sessions. I had to cancel out of clinics. I mean, I couldn't take him anywhere. I couldn't put the halter on him to get him trimmed. I had to try and trim him at Liberty, which is, a whole nother story in and of itself. But
so, just so you know, we got about half an hour more of discussion, and then we'll have about 15 minutes at the end for questions.
Perfect. Thank you, Farah. So, yeah, that was how I decided to reframe that. And that is a really powerful skill, you guys, that you are capable and skillful at doing, however you decide to do it, however it works best for you. How do you want to reframe what's happening for an opportunity right now?
Do you think that Fandango could feel that when you did reframe it?
Yes.
And how did you know it?
I felt differently going into our time together after I had started shifting and changing some things inside myself. And this was not something I did on my own, mind you. Also, I have a nearly magical NLP coach of my own that I use, and I did it was lots of internal work that I did. There was lots of disharmony or incongruence going on inside of me. Fandango is very sensitive to that. So I could walk out to our time together. And this is kind of what you were asking about earlier, Farah, with how we store things in the map of our mind, our reality, how we produce the patterns of actions and behaviors that we have. I had some very conflicting values that I didn't know how to work together, that after some work on myself work very well together. But for example, I wanted to prioritize the partnership. I wanted my horse to want to do stuff with me and to enjoy our time together and to seek me out. I wanted that desperately. And I also wanted to advance our skills in a straight line, rapid rate. I wanted our skills to go up. I wanted to be able to learn to do the things. And I did not have those values aligned congruently inside of myself. So I could walk out to a session together and start nice and light and soft and patient. And I could get like a little, how does the saying go? Like something stuck. I shouldn't say the saying. I would get like stuck on one particular skill. And all of a sudden, I would go tunnel vision on that skill. And we talk about often as humans playing, as human predators playing with a horse prey animal, it's very easy for us to make the mistake of flipping into being a predator. When we go tunnel vision on anything, whether it's a skill or it's something we're trying to accomplish, something we want to do, somewhere we want to go, when we go tunnel vision on something, that is literally how we tell our nervous system fight, flight, or freeze. Like it is time for the sneakers to hit the road, and we are in a crisis right now when we get tunnel vision. And I could do that very successfully with a skill that I wanted to teach Fandango. And all of a sudden, then my value of wanting that perfect partnership would go out the window. The way I had it organized in my mind with the words that I had mapped out in my mind with partnership and skills and capabilities, they were fighting with each other. When really, of course, they can work really spectacularly together when we are in alignment and incongruence within ourselves, right? Fandango couldn't help but be kind of like wild and incongruent because I wasn't aligned between those different sets of values. Does that make sense?
I think it's brilliant. I think now from personal experience as a teacher in this day and age to what I was, because actually I've been teaching horsemanship for about 20 years now, which is kind of scary to think about. But I was very much, okay, all the horses in this clinic will be jumping the barrels and side passing and, people will be rock riding and cantering by the end. That's what we're going to do.
Right.
And now I feel like there's so much value in teaching people how to really observe what their horse is trying to do. Let's say the task is, or the conversation that we can have is we're going to try to side pass over this pole. Well, in the process, the horse goes around it, and they're really, people could get very frustrated, especially as a first-time learner. Yeah. But if you explain, look, the horse is actually looking at it from different angles because he can't see it well. Now he's feeling it with his feet because he can't see things that are under there. Yeah. Now he's experimenting with, putting his hind foot up next to there. It really becomes, very fascinating, the learning process. And I think if we can be as fascinated with our own learning process, which is not as easy,
Yeah.
Sometimes, but that's actually another reason I teach. It helps me to be patient and reframe my own thoughts. So I think this is wonderful. Natalie says, I understand the question is, what kind of person do I want to be in this situation or in this relationship with my horse? But what about what are the limits in this relationship? I think a reframing is needed there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And the cool thing that happens when you become consciously aware of, I think we can shift to calling it an opportunity now, is you get to decide that, which is such a brilliant thing to say, because that's what this leads into next, is setting an outcome. So now you have become aware of it. You've looked into the mirror of the situation and looked inside yourself, which is the only thing we have control over. You've looked into the mirror and said, okay, what is this telling me about me? Who and how do I want to be in response to this? After doing those, then you reframe the situation. What is my opportunity? You decide what this opportunity is, and then you can set an outcome. And an outcome is, you can think about it this way. When that old problem is no longer there, when it is no longer even a glimmer of a problem, how do you want to be feeling, thinking, acting? What do you want to be doing? So an outcome is a super, super powerful tool where you decide, what do you want to be moving towards?
That's
Sometimes,
an interesting concept. I didn't mean to interrupt, but
no, go ahead.
you visualize what it would feel like if you were doing it, and
Yes.
what it would look like if. That is very, very powerful.
Yes.
Watching a horse on the end of the rope, you think, okay, I'm afraid to ride this horse, but what would it feel like if I could convince him to trot like this? Wow, it would be magical. I want to feel that feeling. And just by thinking of it, you share it with that horse. I think it's interesting, Natalie, the comment where you say, what are my limits of this relationship? For me, it brought up, okay, limits in trust, limits in language, limits in, patterns, positive patterns, negative patterns. And I think it's healthy. Like, we all have limits with every relationship that we have. We all have limits, but knowing where they're at and knowing how to stretch those limits in comfortable boundaries,
Yeah.
staying just a little bit outside of the comfort zone, but then coming back and retreating. I think that's a very interesting question. Mary commented, if getting it done doesn't feel good, then you sacrifice the relationship or the task. Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know how you feel, Jessy. I mean, I feel like these creatures are so forgiving.
Immeasurably. Yeah. Even Fandango, who was like, now we're doing the thing, like, you're going to get it right, but still he let me try again every day. They're so forgiving.
Let's try again, little human. Let's see if we can get it right. Let's see, we've got about 20 minutes more of presentation, and then we're going to take 15 minutes of questions.
Perfect. Yeah, I know limits and boundaries are such a huge discussion in the horsemanship world, and such a valid thing to talk about, because listen, I can't be in harmony with you. We can't be in harmony if I have been pancaked and can't move in the arena, right? So safety is a huge part of harmony, and that applies both to the horse feeling it and the human feeling it. And part of listening more carefully and being able to observe these things, this is another huge part of NLP, because NLP uses language to help find the root of behavioral patterns. When you learn NLP, you learn to begin to listen very, very carefully to the words that people are using, to their body language, to everything that's happening in a communication. All of those are very important factors, like the tone of someone's voice, the rate of their breathing, the rate of their blinking, the color of people's skin can change. And these are all minute things that can happen with horses too. Is your horse holding their breath? that does tell you something. Is it always easy to see that in like the heat of the moment? Not always. And that's why it's such a good resource and tool and skill to have, to be in this broader peripheral awareness, to stay out of tunnel vision. We literally can't see options for success when we're in tunnel vision. So, you know,
Well, I think when you talked about the tunnel vision, that's very much like a predator. You know,
yes,
you have the
it is.
direct line goal,
Mhm.
and versus seeing all of the opportunity that's being presented along the way
Yeah,
as truly opportunities. So that's fabulous, Jessy.
yeah, yeah. So with an outcome, like you were saying, Farah, and I think Farah is like extra sensory gifted at being able to like feel what this is going to feel like and energetically convey that to the horse. This is a huge thing that we can't really pretend with the horses, right? Because they can see right through us. If we're thinking one thing and acting a different thing, or feeling one thing and then thinking something else, they can see right through that. And so when we really associate to our outcome, who do I want to be? What do I want to be saying to myself? How do I want to be responding to my horse? How do I want to be communicating? That is, you hit the nail on the head, Farah, a tremendously important part of establishing an outcome is you actually feel in your body and hear in your mind what is happening when you have the outcome that you want. Otherwise, we can actually get glimpses of our outcome and miss it entirely. It's possible for us to even take small steps towards our outcome and miss it if we don't know exactly where we're trying to go to. And that's another cool thing about NLP is teaching people to be specific about what you're moving towards and not simply just what you're moving away from. It's a very powerful motivational factor to be moving towards what you want. Even if you take one tiny half a step towards what you want, even if that step is only thinking about it, is only daydreaming about it, that is a super valid step, because when you think about it and when you daydream about it, you are associating to that. So you can't possibly act it out outside of yourself until you understand it inside of yourself. Is that making sense?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Super. So what I had an idea to do next, let me just see which slide I have next here. It's not moving. Go. Okay. Oh no, my keyboard isn't working. Hold on. While I fix my technical difficulties here, the idea that I had next is to teach you guys a little bit more about asking yourself some of these questions and clarifying some of your specific opportunities that you have available in your partnerships with your horses. Does everybody feel game for that? I can't change my screen right now, Farah, so you let me know what people are saying.
Why don't you just stop sharing really quick and see if that helps with your mouse?
I can't, it's like frozen.
Oh, your screen, oh, the whole thing is frozen.
Yeah. I don't know what happened. And it has never happened before, but
what an opportunity this is.
You guys, I am so good at finding opportunities. You just hang out with me for a little while and you will be amazed at how many opportunities we come across.
If you need to log out completely and then log back in, that's fine too. If you need to turn your computer off and then come back in.
Okay, so let's do this. I might have to do that, but if everybody seems like they're up for this in the chat, let me pose a couple questions. Yep. And then you guys can work on the questions while I have the opportunity to get a little more savvy with my technology.
That's no problem.
So now, knowing what you know about some of these different tools that you can use once you have decided upon an opportunity for yourself, I have a couple questions I was going to ask you guys, and you can think of these questions in terms of your own horses and partnerships that you have. And I'm going to ask these questions in a particular way that's going to sound kind of different than how we normally would ask a question or do something. I'm going to ask these questions to the department of your mind that is more unconscious, the deeper part of yourself where the roots of some of our behaviors and patterns are stored. It's actually outside of our conscious awareness. And in this more unconscious part of our mind, we have tremendous wisdom and knowledge and resources. In our culture, we don't always know how to tap into that, the more unconscious parts of our mind. So when I ask you guys these questions, I'm going to ask it starting this way. Please ask your unconscious mind. And when I ask a question that way, the way you will know that you're answering with your unconscious mind is if the answer kind of floats up out of nowhere. You don't think the answer into being. Sometimes the answer will even come before the question is done being asked. You can get these answers.
Gut feeling almost.
What? Say that again.
Your gut feeling.
Yes, you can. I was just, Farah, you're like on the ball here. I was just going to say, so these answers can be answers that you hear. It could be an answer that you see in your mind's eye. It could be like a visceral feeling you get in your body. The answer could seem completely bizarre. Then you know it's coming from the unconscious mind. So if you would be willing to try, and if you guys don't want to do this and you just want to watch and see what on earth is happening, feel free. There's no obligation. With those of you who want to try and experiment a little bit, when I ask these questions, and it might be helpful to write the answers down, and then we can talk once I get my computer working again and I can look at the chat. And so if you write them down, then you don't have to worry about, locking them into your conscious memory. You can have your unconscious mind available for these communications. So I'll ask them that way. Just let the answer come. Even if it doesn't make sense, don't wrestle it with your conscious mind. Does that make sense to everybody? Does anybody have any questions about that, Farah, in the chat?
No, everyone's ready, and I'm actually going to write the questions down as you ask them, and
Okay.
I'll post them in the chat.
Perfect. So the first question is, and please ask your unconscious mind, what is the greatest opportunity for growth in partnership with your horse right now? Whatever floats up, whatever answer pops in your mind, I am positive some of you had the answer before the question was even all the way out.
Well, and I think that a few of these people answered a bit that question. We have Understanding His Questions coming up by Mary Ann Savage. That's a nice one.
Yeah, it's excellent. I'm just going to give it another second for people to finish writing that down. It looks like most people are.
We have
I still don't have a mouse.
Friendship as one.
Yeah, super.
Putting my fear to ride behind me. Getting to the next level with Norman. You know who that's from. Regaining an injured horse's trust.
Yeah.
Playtime. Deep listening. The obstacles we are facing is, I think, helping us grow as partners. We have been through so much.
Yeah.
Andrew comments that he loves Norman. Trust that my thoughts and action is congruent. Ooh, that's nice.
Do you hear how everybody's phrasing these, Farah? You guys are so brilliant. I didn't even have to explain this. And I'll clarify this in a minute when I get my computer working again. That when you state some of these things, when you state it in the positive, it's so powerful. And you guys are just doing that like automatically. So bravo.
Mary says, for me to catch up with him as it pertains to feelings for him and catching all the clues. Susan says, decoding the herd. Sarah says, taking the lessons as they come, including using an injury as a chance to learn more about correct biomechanics.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. There's an opportunity hunter. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Is finding out where their pain is coming from and helping them heal.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
You guys are amazing. You guys are amazing. Okay, I have another question for you guys for your unconscious mind. So again, whatever answer floats up, just let it come without consciously wrestling with it. So ask your unconscious mind, what does this opportunity for growth with your horse mirror for you? What does this opportunity mirror for you?
And when you say mirror, as far as reflecting in yourself,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So if you use the opportunity as a mirror, what does this opportunity mirror for me about myself, inside of me? What can I look at inside of myself when I look at this situation as a mirror? What is it reflecting back to me?
We had a couple of comments for the last question, not just physical pain, but also emotional pain. We had Julie said balance, wisdom, and language. Nice. And so the mirror, Susan says it mirrors her own ambiguity. Marianne said I need to be also heard. Patty says confidence. Andrew says for me to listen to what is inside of me. Kathy says understand growth and healing emotional and physical pain. Natalie says I don't play enough. I need to play more. Yeah, touche, Natalie. We all do.
Yeah.
Mary says for me to be more aware of others and not so focused on myself. Elizabeth says I have the knowledge and good instincts to do what is best for my horse. I need to gain the confidence. Debbie says fear of failure. And Sarah says taking care of all the herd, including me. Today, my horse and I both got a bodywork session. I'm jealous.
Nice. Sounds so lovely.
Julie says growth onto another level to step it up.
Yeah. So good. You guys, look how willing everybody is to look in the mirror on these. You guys, that's not a small thing. Like, that's not an easy thing to look at a situation and allow it to be a mirror for ourselves. That is a skill that is so positive and so powerful, because that's all we have control over is who we are, how we respond, how we are perceiving and deciding to do things. It's super powerful. All right, one more question. Well, I mean, I have more, but here's the next one. So ask your unconscious mind, how can you reframe that old problem into an opportunity right now?
And I think, some of these people have already done that almost in their first response because
yes, there has been lots of reframing. And the interesting thing is too, when you ask the question, like when I ask some of these questions at the beginning of the session, sometimes the answers can be different when you're talking to the unconscious mind than when you're talking to the conscious mind. So it is kind of an interesting thing to look at. The conscious mind can sometimes have a different agenda. The unconscious mind contains all of our memories, our values, our beliefs, our decisions, our emotions, our dream processing. I mean, the tools and skills we came into this life with are all contained in the unconscious mind. If you think about it, we cannot possibly have all of that in our conscious awareness all the time. It would be insanity inducing. So by understanding that, then it drops out of conscious awareness and becomes part of the unconscious mind. We have access to so many resources in our unconscious mind. When we build a rapport in that kind of communication, learning to listen inside of ourselves for what we think would be the next best step. What's the next thing to try? How do I want to approach this? We can ask that internally, and it's a very powerful thing. And I think the horses can perceive that pretty fast too.
Well, there's some pretty interesting answers here. Vicky says, make it fun and exciting.
Yeah.
Thatcher says, see horses as they are. Nice. Mary says, the more I focus on my horse and on others, the more I will learn. Elizabeth says, learn from your mistakes. It's encouraging to see the before and after.
Yeah.
And we can't forget how it used to look. You know, if you feel like you're not making any progress, you have to remember where you were.
Yeah.
Susan says to trust the process. Andrew says, by asking me what I'm needing to hear before I ask the horse what I need to hear from her. And Natalie says, say, just the hell with it, just go.
Yeah.
Patty says, trust. Kathy said, finish the course in unwinding that I'm working on and using it on horses and myself. Nice. Julie says, commitment to the journey. And Fernanda says, stop beating myself up when I'm not making progress. That's awesome answers.
So good. I'm curious if any of you guys are surprised by any of these answers. Like, did you know you had this information available to you? Is anybody surprised by some of the things that they're coming up with, the solutions that they're thinking of, the reframing that they're thinking of, the opportunities that they're identifying? So I'd be curious to hear that in the chat too. And then this is the one last question for you guys. And this one is the best one. So of all the questions to listen to, this one is the best one. They're all good questions. This one's just really good. So again, with your unconscious mind, whatever answer floats up easily without having to consciously wrestle it, ask your unconscious mind, when that old problem is no longer a problem, what do you want to be thinking, feeling, saying, and doing?
Looks like we've got a few answers. Julie says freedom. Kathy says being one with the herd. I like that. Elizabeth comments, these answers are exactly what I needed to keep on going.
Oh,
I know. Debbie says finding my balance.
yeah.
I want to be thinking about riding all of the time, feeling balanced, and trail riding.
Yeah.
Sarah says moving with ease and purpose, finding the yoga in every movement.
Nice.
Yeah, you would like to talk to Sarah.
Yeah.
Fernanda says being in the moment and enjoy. Beautiful, Fernanda.
Yeah.
Dr. Vicky says this is amazing. That's what she wants to be thinking and feeling. Elizabeth says having confidence, trying new things, and having trust in myself and my horse. Natalie says feeling light.
Yeah. Yeah.
Andrew says being able to sense what they need in body work and getting them what they need. In riding, feeling smooth and in balance. Mary says being present in the moment with my horse and with humans enjoying it. Thatcher says seeing myself like a rider in an Avatar movie. Yay.
Nice.
Think it and doing it are as one. Nice. Then.
Yeah. Yeah. So good, you guys. You guys are great at this because a lot of times in NLP, when we educate people about the outcome, you have to explain to people many times to state your outcome in the positive. And I have a slide that explains some of this, but since my slides aren't working, I'm just going to talk about it a little bit instead. So some of the cool things about putting together an outcome, and I'm going to ask you these few questions. It's going to associate you to your outcome even more, you guys, and you will be shocked to find when and how often you are noticing that you are getting pieces of that. Because when you become intimately familiar with your outcome, then you can start to see it unfolding in front of you. Oh, I had that. Like I had that for half of my session today. So when you're putting together an outcome, and you guys, you have this list of things you can do when you come to a new opportunity that you find, you can use this in all areas of life. Tonight, we're talking about partnership with horses, but you can see now how these are transferable questions to other areas of life as well. So when you put together an outcome for an opportunity in partnership with your horse or any other area of life, you always want to state it positively, right? So you're stating what you're moving towards. That is super powerful motivation, moving towards what you want rather than just moving away from what you don't want. Moving away from something. So for example, if I were to say in my partnership with my horse, I don't want any more anxiety. Well, fine. Now I've said one thing I don't want, but that leaves approximately 100 million other things for me to be moving towards. So you want to state your outcome positively. When you decide on an outcome, you want to be as specific as possible. And that's why we ask the question the way we do. What do you want to be thinking, feeling, saying, and doing? You can literally jump into your outcome. Feel it in your body. Where do you feel that success in your body? Maybe it feels warm. Maybe it feels cool. Maybe you see a color. Like really jump into feeling that outcome. What are you going to be saying to yourself when you have this outcome? What are you going to be saying to your horse? What are you going to be seeing? Be very specific, and it starts to associate you to your outcome. You begin to feel it. And a really cool thing about understanding outcomes is for you guys to be able to articulate and clarify these outcomes, it means you must have at one point or another already have experienced some or part of it. Because we cannot possibly know we want something if we are completely unfamiliar with it, right? So like when I say I want more harmony, I must have experienced at least some taste of harmony before I'm able to articulate that into my outcome. So you have the tools and skills to have already gotten a taste of it or more. And to be able to speak about it and clarify about it, you have already gotten it at least once before to be able to say, I want more of that, right? Does that make sense?
Well, it brings up to me the thought, the value of somebody actually playing with, oh, I think we got it. So somebody actually playing with a horse that already knows that feeling of success.
Yeah.
Or riding a horse that is maybe more advanced than the horse that they're riding, because those, your subconscious absorbs those feelings, they absorb those moments, so that when you're presented with a horse that maybe doesn't know as much, you still have that feeling inside. That's one of the things I love doing with my students is having them play with my horses and say, great, this is what it could feel like. The horse can help you feel it. So I think it's very powerful. But if you don't have the opportunity, just visualizing it and imagining it, I think can be equally as powerful. Like
absolutely. And I think that that's a really good illustration, Farah, of internal resources and external resources. So what Farah can provide in a horse as advanced as the horses that she can manage to produce is an external feeling of what it feels like to accomplish this skill or that skill, or what it feels like to have this kind of connection or this kind of rhythm together. That's an external resource to help you learn to have that and integrate it into yourself. And we also have these internal resources where for you guys to be able to say, I want more harmony, you already know and have experienced harmony to be able to say it. So that's an internal resource. Whatever you guys are coming up with for your outcomes, you have already experienced it. Internally, you can find where you feel that in your body, what it feels like. What is your breathing like when you're experiencing that? What are you seeing? What's your vision like? What is your facial expression like? right? So really associate to the cool parts of that outcome because you understand them to be able to want them, right?
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I like that too about outcomes. So the other thing
we have about 10 minutes. I want to make sure if there's some other questions, but and I'm so bummed because Jessy just had, so you know, had this awesome video.
Get out of here. Keep like occasionally trying to push a button and do something.
But the video is just, I was struck because I got to see it a little bit. I know I'm crying too. I got to see it a little bit before this presentation, and it was her and Fandango and just a little play session that she had.
Can you kick me out of screen share, Farah? Will it close it then? Like,
yeah, I can try.
See if that will do anything.
Yep.
Because I can turn my computer off and start it over, but then, are you still there?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Did that work for you?
Wait, oh, it worked.
Oh, good.
Yay!
Oh, good.
It's a miracle. We took advantage of the opportunity.
We learned something. Well, I'm glad you interrupted me.
I'm sorry. I know I mean, an NLP practitioner should never interrupt. It's like my cardinal sin is to not be carefully listening to somebody.
No.
My apologies. Oh, okay. So what time is it? Oh my gosh.
But do take a moment, Jessy, and show a little bit of that video, because if you weren't already planning on it.
Yep, I want to. The only other thing I want to say, I just want to take 10 seconds to finish on outcomes, is this is a really important one, especially for us horse people, is to remember to be ecological, meaning safe and for the well-being of us and the people around us. Like I've talked with people before about, you know, someone saying, well, I want to be fearless with my horse. Well, that's not exactly the most ecological outcome, because when our horse does something that inspires fear in us, we want to be able to respond to that appropriately. It doesn't mean we need to overreact or over-respond to it, but you know, having that response of fear is a communication from ourselves that's important to listen to. So that's just one of the other details in setting an outcome, is that you make sure it's in your best interest, your overall best interest, well-being of yourself and of your horse and of the other people around you. So just one more thing to think about when you are setting outcomes. Does that make sense to everybody?
I think it's really great that you brought that up, because it's there's definitely no benefit to pushing through your fears. You have to, they're valid concerns, and learning to understand and address them one by one. What is it trying to tell you? Then that's the best way to overcome, not in one big jump, but understanding the fear.
Yeah. I mean, if we're going to have access to all of our unconscious resources, then we have to start listening to ourselves, right? So listen to fear or excitement or the little pictures or things we hear that come from the unconscious mind. The more we listen to those things, the messages that we give ourselves, the better the rapport and communication with all of those resources in the unconscious mind. So I made a little video, and this is not like a fancy performance or audition video. This is just a video of a session that I had with Fandango. This is about 1.5 years after he initially told me to get lost. After I had worked in lots of these tools and skills that I'm telling you guys about. So in this video, you're going to see some of these things in play, what it looks like for me and Fandango. It might not be what it would look like for everybody, because we are all unique. But I wanted to give you an example of what some of this looks like now, having put into practice the tools and the skills I've talked to you guys about. So at times the videos might seem a little slow, but if you watch for the nuances of communication, I think you'll see a whole new level of interaction. And at the end, I couldn't help but share, Fandango and I took some pictures to celebrate the culmination of the journey we've been on together, the success of the new relationship and rapport we have found together. So there's some of those at the end, and I hope my computer works and that you guys really enjoy this. Can you see it okay, Farah?
Working.
It's working?
Yep.
Okay.
Jessy, you said you didn't practice this at all. Like he just did that by himself.
The thought never occurred to me to try that. I volunteered it, and I decided to take the communication and go with it and see what we could do. So this is a back and forth conversation. You know, he offered something, and I said, "What can we do with it?" And this is a very genuine conversation and interaction, not reversed at all.
Nice photo session, Jessy. You said that you didn't have much of a chance to practice, and it was super cold, right? And you just said, we're gonna go out there and see what we can do.
Yep. He blew me away.
I think that's my favorite one, Jessy.
That one is pretty good. She did an amazing job.
You got some people crying here.
Oh no, good tears.
It was like I was also I know you. I have the advantage to know you, and yeah, when he picked up the halter and handed it to you, and then when you were able to put it on while sitting on his back, oh
I know. It brings tears to my eyes too, and it's actually, you guys, so generous of you to let me talk about this, because you know, clearly it was a very moving journey for me and Fandango, and to be able to share that and in combination with the NLP stuff is very special to me too, to be able to show you guys this amazing horse who has taken me on this, I mean, journey of a lifetime is really special for me to be able to share with you guys. It brings tears to my eyes.
Well, we have a few questions here. We're going a little bit over time, but I'm going to try to get to these questions. So let's see. Ada says, what are the differences between how a high-spirited person benefits from NLP versus a low-spirited person, or is the goal just the same?
The goal with NLP is always individual client led. So I would never be telling somebody what to do, what they should be reframing things to, how they should be mirroring things, what their outcomes should be. What I love so much about NLP, and Farah has had the good grace of experiencing this firsthand, is nobody's telling me what to do. I'm given the resources and capabilities to look inside myself and say what will work best. Mm-hmm. And it takes a gracious teacher, which Farah has done for me, to be able to say, well, I can't do it that way. I need to be able to do it a different way. But to make a short answer long, the student and the client of NLP decides where they are going, and the practitioner helps connect them with the resources they want and already have to get there.
So basically you want to decide your own goal based on looking at your own reflection in the problem.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great answer.
Mhm.
Let's see. We have another. Susan says, not a question, but a comment. I could physically feel the communication channel between the two of you. Absolutely beautiful. It made me cry.
Yeah.
So that was Sue. I know, I'm totally there with you, Sue.
Yeah.
Elizabeth said, that's my attitude when I play with my horse. I'm just trying something and see what happens. There's no pressure. And often it turns out well. That's fabulous, Elizabeth. If you have the visualization, just like Jessy was saying about where you want to go, then it's amazing how you can just visualize and you can get there. Julie says, really lovely. Thank you for sharing all of this, Jessy. So wonderful. Patty says, beautiful, really amazing, Elizabeth. Team Fandango, hashtag Team Fandango, Kelly. Fernanda says, made my heart sing. Thank you, Jessy. Dr. Vicky says, as always, I'm in awe, Jessy. And Julie says, what is really interesting was there's no conversation or questioning about why he was choosing to communicate with you like this, but instead the conversation could look like no focusing on the problem. So that is really nice. Mary says, amazing journey. Thank you for sharing. Sarah Rose says, this was a brilliant presentation. Beautiful message. Thank you, Jessy.
Thank you.
So I think, let's see if I had one more comment here. So I think, Jessy, thank you again. I'm so happy that you're able to come out and tell your story and give people some tools to also, start to achieve their dreams, or if they're achieving their dreams, set a next goal of how they could clarify their mind, and just by doing that, get to the next level. So thank you so much for being so open and honest with us about what's happened to you. And we sure appreciate it. And thank you everyone for coming tonight. This was brilliant. We've got some awesome hand clapping. One question, how does one learn more about NLP? I think you also do some private coaching as well, Jessy.
I do coaching, and can I put a screen thing up?
Yes.
I have a free online class coming up. But I haven't advertised anywhere else, so I wanted to offer to you guys that if enough people were interested in more of the NLP education, I could make that class more geared towards my fellow horse people. So let me put this. I'm not going to put it on whole screen just in case it gets frozen again. So hopefully it's big enough for you guys to see. But I have an online class coming up, which is like the foundational intro information to NLP. And that's coming up, is that 2 weeks on April 1st at 7 o'clock. And all of my contact information is on here. The website is thewingedjourney.com. My email, jess@thewingedjourney.com. And then I'm the Winged Journey Coaching on Facebook. And you can find me any of those places with questions. I do private coaching, and then these free online classes. So any of those ways.
That is brilliant, Jessy. We'll be telling people about that. And a couple more comments. Just beautiful, Jessy. Love to see the way you use NLP in a different way. And Mary says, will the class be on Zoom, and how would we get to the meeting ID?
Yes, it would be on Zoom. If you get in touch with me, I'll share all of the meeting information.
Okay. And also, if you give us that information, we'll post it on the IHA website as well.
Perfect.
All right. Thank you, everyone, tonight. Jessy, thank you again.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you. Namaste.